On a related note, Iranian officials have now made it clear that they are exceeding uranium enrichment levels allowed by the JCPOA nuclear agreement. So with Israel already conducting alleged airstrikes against Iranian targets in Syria, while Iran and the United States continue to raise tensions, many are left wondering if and when things will escalate. And here to discuss is diplomatic analyst Idan Ronen. Idan, thank you so much for coming back in.
Thank you so much.
All right, so first of all, how do you see the next, how do you see things progressing over the next week, 2 weeks, month?
Sure. Well, we have to remember that only because we don't hear about the drums of war beating at full power, it doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't any war taking place underneath surface.
So you're saying perhaps a war has already begun?
Already begun for years. It is what I call as the quiet assassin, the Israeli quiet assassin. Now, I will obviously admit, according to foreign sources, Israel is playing very hard at cyber war. Like a few years back, if you can recall that
sure,
example, the Stuxnet war has affiliated to Israel. Once again, I have to say this out loud, according to various foreign sources, was able to make an overall shutdown of the Iranian centrifuges. And on top of that, Iranian top scientists are all of a sudden just gone. Israel is having its own discrete war. So not necessarily only because you don't hear a full power clashing head on against head on each other. So it doesn't necessarily mean that there is not a war going on underneath surface.
But one of the bigger questions, though, and I want to steer clear of some sort of incitement, but one of the bigger questions is, why doesn't Israel or the United States or some other Western aligned power go in and simply remove Iran's nuclear option off of the table? Why isn't a physical attack?
Because, well, first, everything revolves around one figure, and he is President Trump. And President Trump has his own calculations. President Trump, for instance, he is right now going into an election year in his own domestic U.S. audience. And he pledged he will never get his own G.I. Joe's boots on the grounds. He doesn't want to violate his promise, particularly not when he's coming into an election year. And besides, he had his Bahrain summit only a week ago. He wishes to show American public some sort of achievement. He knows that if he militarily strikes Iran, that may get him into complications which are unpredictable, that may force him to break his own promise and have U.S. forces in Iran. And he certainly doesn't want that around election time. But there is a lot going on, like he's tightening even extra sanctions over the top leadership of Iran.
Sure.
He's not a sucker. He sure knows what he's doing. Yeah, I know it kind of looks...
So do you think that there are calculated steps being taken, maybe not?
Absolutely,
maybe not in view?
100%, 100%, even 1,000%. He knows that if he is tightening the grip over Iran's top leadership, that it's going to be, as of now, yeah, he still has his own political maneuvers, but as of now, that is quite effective. He also, check this one out, he also doesn't want the Iranian people to show support and solidarity with their own vicious and oppressive regime.
Which would explain the sanctions regime, because that sanctions campaign kind of keeps the pressure on the government and separation between the government and its people.
Well, yeah, and also just think what would happen if he strikes militarily the leadership. Then all the ordinary people in the streets, which are under constant suffocation already, all of a sudden they will turn against Trump and will back their own regime. That's just nature of war. They're always the clan is always united behind the chief. That's the nature of war, anywhere, anytime around the world. Trump does want to avoid that kind of scenario. So he wishes right now not to militarily strike Iran, but to basically to show his own ways of retaliation without having the ordinary people showing his oppression to that, their objection to that.
So we're going to see, by your predictions here, we're going to see, a lot more cyber warfare, maybe a lot more, hidden and clandestine operations against, targeted members of the scientific community in Iran, perhaps, it sounds like you mentioned as well?
It is, and it is already in progress, and I'm not necessarily even certain that has to do with this kind of action or another. there's an ongoing undersurface, there's an ongoing cyber war beneath surface, which are designed to disable Iranian systems and Iranian centrifuges. And as I said, it all revolves around one person, President Trump, but we're not waiting for him. Israel is doing whatever it believes is necessary to protect its interests.
All right, Idan Ronen, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks.